So happy Labor Day, everybody. For those of you who are new and just joined us this last week, I want to introduce myself. My name is Brittani Hayes, and I am your Ambassador Diamond Leader. I'm so happy that you are with us. This has been an incredible year that our team has experienced. In the midst of everything, that has been what we call 2020. It's been such an incredible year for our team. And I'm so excited that you've joined and that you're going to be able to, run with us these last several months. I really believe that this last quarter of the year is going to be the best one yet. Or I guess we're not even technically in the last quarter because that'll be starting October. But I really believe these last few months are just going to be so huge. And we're just so happy that you're with us. I cannot wait for you to see just the blessing that this business can be for you. This business has absolutely changed my family's life. In just 4 years, it's allowed us to become a full-time family, pay off debt, live our dream life down in Southwest Florida. And it's just given us the options that we always wanted, but didn't have the means to obtain before. And one of the things that I love so much about this business is it can be whatever you need it to be. It can be for you exactly what your family needs specifically, exactly what the vehicle that you need to meet the dreams that you have on your heart, the dreams that God's put inside of you. And so whatever those dreams are, I just hope that you, as we're talking tonight and we're sharing tonight, I hope that you start, really thinking what are those dreams? Maybe I haven't pulled them all out yet and put them on a dream board, but what things are inside of me that this business can help me achieve? I think so often when I see people, stop and sell themselves short in the business, it's usually because they don't have a big enough why. They don't have a big enough dream. They don't have anything burning inside of them, bursting to come out at the seams. They haven't thought that deep. And it's so sad to me because this business has done for us so much. It's done for us more than any job in corporate America could ever do. It's given us the freedom to, pack up and move and go where we want to go and do things that we never had the freedom to do before. We were actually just talking with some friends tonight who were over that are also in the business with us, and we were saying, it's so amazing because when you're full-time with this business, you can go wherever you want to go. You can move wherever you want to move. You can do whatever you want to do, and that freedom is just absolutely priceless. And so, what I want to talk about tonight is just what it takes to not just, reach that level of success, but continuously be attracting that success, to keep that success. And, thinking like a business owner, and putting yourself in a place where, you're committed to winning. And I think so often, we talked about selling ourselves short. I think so often what happens is we don't ever expect to win. A great book that you can listen to and put on your Audible list is called Born to Win by Zig Ziglar. It was actually the last book he wrote before he died. I actually grew up listening to Zig Ziglar when I was in military school. When we would sit and work on our schoolwork, we would listen to Zig Ziglar tapes in the background. And that was back again when when Zig Ziglar first started, becoming a big name, he had little cassette tapes that you could buy and listen to in your car. And so we had this cassette player down in the basement of where I was, doing school. And we would listen to Zig Ziglar tapes. And I can remember just soaking in his words and really even at that age, fixating on success and what that meant. And so that book that I listened to, Born to Win, which is the last book he wrote before he died, and he wrote it, a little bit of it with his son, Tom Ziglar. But that book is phenomenal. I listened to it, I want to say I was Presidential Diamond, I don't know, but it was a book that I remember listening to it thinking, I wish I would have heard this earlier on in my business. I think this would have honestly accelerated my mindset even more quickly. And so definitely put that on your list if you haven't listened to it. You can listen to it on Audible. It might be free in some of the other apps. If you have a local library that you're a member of, most libraries have an app that you can download and log in with your library card information. And you can listen to 10 audiobooks a month for free. So even if you don't have Audible or something, there's still ways you can listen to for free. So be solution-minded with that. But that book is phenomenal. And one of the things he talks about is that we have to understand that if we're going to win, we have to understand that we were born to win. And we have to prepare to win, and then we have to expect to win. And what I think is so huge about those three things is that so many of us don't grow up thinking we were born to win. Maybe circumstances, put you in a place where you just didn't think that you were born to win. Maybe, you once thought that, but then things got in the way, and now, you're not really expecting to win. Drop a 1 in the comments if you've been in a place where you're hungry for change, but you can honestly say, just being transparent with the group, that you're not prepared to win. So you do really want things to get better, but you're not setting yourself up to win. You're not preparing to win. I think that we can all, if we're honest with ourselves, say we've been in that position before. We're like, yeah, I really want to be better, but I'm definitely not preparing to win. And so what I love so much about that book is that it's so simple. Like, if we know we're born to win and we prepare to win and that we expect to win, we're going to win. But they all have to be together. And so that's kind of what we're going to jump in and talk about tonight. And what that really honestly starts with, we talked about listening to that book, downloading that book. That's a great start. Even if, those of you who maybe listened to it when I first recommended it, which was probably like 18 months ago, 2 years ago, listen to it again. You already have it in your Audible, listen to it again. But one of the things that we're going to talk about, surrounding, listening to books and things like that, is you can never be a better version of anyone else but you. You can't change anyone else. You can't change your spouse. You can't change your mom. You can't change your sister. You can't change your best friend. Like, if you have someone in your ear telling you they don't think this is going to work for you, they don't think you're going to be able to get very far, you can't change them. You can only change you. You can only be a better version of you. And you're never going to be able to be exactly like anybody else, and you shouldn't want to be. You should want to be the best version of you. And so understanding that, like, sometimes you have to believe to be somebody you've never been. Maybe you've been hanging out over here. You haven't been acting like you're born to win. You haven't been preparing to win. You haven't been expecting to win. And so you've got to believe to be somebody you haven't been before. You've got to take that step and believe, like, I am the best version of me. And I don't quite know what that looks like yet, but I'm going to be her, and I'm going to work I'm going to work every single day hard to be her. And one day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to meet her. And that decision is so powerful, but it starts with that decision. Like, we don't just wake up being the person that we want to be. We don't just wake up one day being somebody we've never been. Like, it starts right now. It starts right now with making a decision that I am going to be the best version of me. I'm not going to get caught up caught up in comparison, or caught up, thinking how maybe I fall short here, or I'm not good enough in this area. I'm just going to be the best version of me. And that is step one. I promise you, anyone that you look up to that is successful, they will tell you they're not very concerned with what someone is or isn't doing. I don't get caught up in things, like anything that someone does in the business. Like, I don't care, because I know that God has called me to be the best version of me. And I know that if I'm the best version of me, and I show up every day being the best version of me and being a little bit better than I was yesterday, then I know that I can lead you guys. I know I can lead my team. I know I can continue to step forward every single day. So I can't worry about what someone else is or isn't doing. I can't worry about who does something differently than me. I got to be the best version of me. And I think that, honestly, like, even though that sounds so simple, that is one of the magic secrets to success, is having that mindset right. Another thing that I want to talk about is, understanding that, success doesn't look like this. It looks like this. So there's going to be times when things happen that maybe aren't, the greatest, setup. Maybe they're not, it's just not the best case scenario. But understanding that, choosing to be resilient and training yourself, even if in the past you haven't, we talked about, like, if you're maybe in the past, you haven't had the mindset that you're born to win. You haven't, prepared to win and expected to win. So AKA, you haven't been that resilient. You've let things take you out. You've got to start now training yourself to be resilient. You got to start right now understanding, like, you know what, nothing can take me out unless I say it can take me out. And so if I'm going to be resilient, like, I'm always going to accelerate, because resilience produces acceleration. And so if you want to accelerate and you want to go far and you want to go fast, like, you've got to have long faith. You can't just have strong faith in the moment when you feel good and someone, gets on a Zoom and hypes you up, or you listen to a book that really speaks to you and then you're going to work really hard for the 3 days after. Like, it doesn't matter how strong your faith is in that moment. It matters how long your faith is. It matters if your faith will last. And so ask yourself right now, do I have the kind of faith that will last? Am I resilient? Am I willing to keep going when the going gets tough? Because that is what successful people do. Successful people keep powering through. They don't let what anybody does or doesn't do take them out. They don't let what's happening, circumstantially in their life. They understand that everything is, like, there is a time and a place for everything. There's a season for everything. And certain things might be happening that aren't ideal, but it's a season. And it's a season that will end, like seasons do. And they understand that the only thing that keeps going is a cycle, and they control cycles. So we can't control seasons, but we can control cycles. And so if we can understand that things that are happening, okay, this is a season, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep persevering, I'm going to be resilient, I'm going to press through, and I'm going to let this strengthen me, then that season will end. But what happens so often is when we don't press through and we don't choose to be resilient and we just fall back and wallow in whatever's going on, then now we're stuck in a cycle. We're stuck in the same cycle that we've been in for a while, where we're doing good and then we're not. We're doing good, then we're not. That's a cycle. Does everyone understand that? I think for me, like this is something that it's so easy for people to see on the outside when they're looking at us, but so often when we're in the moment, like, you know, it's hard to choose that. It's hard to choose that mindset. Like when something's happening that's not fun, like it would be really easy to just sit back and be like, well, I can't show up today. I can't be successful this week. I can't do what I need to do right now because I've got X, Y, and Z. And all these other people that are killing their business this month and are getting all their hosts to post up and are, you know, slaying the game, they don't have this going on. But what if they do? Or what if they have something worse going on? But what if they're just choosing to be resilient? What if they're choosing to recognize this is a season and it's a season that's not fun, but what can I control? I can only control me. I can only be a better version of me. So I'm going to keep powering through. And that's what you're witnessing. So often, you know, we think that, you know, what we're witnessing on the outside is all that there is to see. But we all know better than that logically. There's always so much more going on than what we can see on the surface. And so whatever you're going through, I promise you, someone's going through something harder and they're choosing to be strong. They're choosing to power through. And I don't say that to like shame you and how you're feeling in the midst of your struggles, because obviously we all know when we're in the midst of our struggle, like that's what we're focused on. But I say that to give you empowerment and to give you encouragement. Like remind yourself of that. Remind yourself the next time something's going not quite right. It could be worse. There's someone that I probably look up to right now that's going through something worse, and choose to be resilient, because that resilience will only make you stronger. I was listening to Darius Daniels, and he was talking about the verse where, you know, the prophet said, I will give you no rest until you have established Jerusalem. You will not let me go until you have blessed me. And he was talking about how, like, when you're hungry, that will be you. Like when you're hungry, you will say, like the prophet said, I will give you no rest until you have established Jerusalem. You will not let me go until you have blessed me. Like that will be your mindset. But if you're not hungry and you're just desperate, you'll walk away the second there's trouble. So are you hungry or are you desperate? Are you hungry for success, or are you just desperate for like some temporary change right now? Because lasting success comes when you're hungry. Lasting success comes when you say, you will not let me go, Lord, until you bless me. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep showing up. Like, I don't care what's going on right now. That is not fun. That is, getting a lot of my energy right now. I'm going to keep powering through because I know there's a blessing for me at the end of it. I can tell you right now, every single blessing that I've ever had in this business, the highest paychecks I've ever had, the biggest breakthroughs I've ever had, promotions that I've had, massive promotions on the team that are like too many to count. Anytime there's ever been any type of breakthrough, it's always come after a lot of hardship. It's always come out of a lot of, personal struggles. It's always come out of, some things that have happened that I didn't see coming. And when I have that thing that happens, then I'm reminded, like, okay, like that was so worth it to push through. Like if I would have thought about that too much, if I would have gotten in my head about that too much, like I maybe wouldn't have gotten here. I maybe would have missed this point. It's like that saying that, there's a difference between falling short or stopping short. Falling short just means you gave it all you got and you didn't quite hit it. Maybe you were, running for double diamond and you missed it by just a tiny bit and you're going to hit it next month. That's an example of falling short. But stopping short means you're running for double diamond and you get to the 20th and you're like, oh, I'm just not where I wanted to be yet. It's impossible. I'm not going to push these last 10 days. That's stopping short. And so like stopping short is something we can always control, whereas falling short means we gave it all we had and like, yeah, we maybe just didn't get that. But failure only happens when we choose to stop short, not when we choose to fall short. And so having that resilience mindset of like, I'm going to keep going no matter what. Like I'm not going to let any blessings God has for me I'm not going to leave any blessings that God has for me on the table. I'm going to scoop every single one of them up, because why would I not? Think about anyone right now that inspires you. Whether it's someone you know in real life, whether it's someone that you've looked up to that's, in any, high position, maybe it's someone in the business, it doesn't matter, whoever it is. Maybe it's an author, a speaker, whoever. Think of anyone that inspires you. And I want you to actually think of do you know their story? Have you ever heard them talk about their story? Maybe you haven't. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I know some people, have heard all the great things about someone, but then they've never heard the hardships, and they hear the hardships later on and they're like, holy cow, now I like them even more. I didn't even know they went through all that. And the reason I'm sharing that is every single person that you look up to, if you really dig in deep, you're going to find that there's something pretty hard they've walked through. Some more than others, some more, just things that you would never expect, but there's something that they've walked through. I have yet to meet anyone that inspires me that just is like, yeah, it was amazing. I woke up one day and I just did this and here I am. And I had this perfect life growing up and everything's always been great for me. I've never had anything hard happen. That's just not real life. And so whenever we're having things that are going on, personally for me, and if you've ever had a coaching call with me, you know I talk about this. If you talk about your struggles, like for me, my mindset and what I always tell others is that anything you're going through, if you just choose to keep going, one day, God never allows purposeless pain. So one day he's going to allow that story of overcoming in your situation to inspire someone else to overcome. Someone else is going to keep going because they are listening to you. They're hearing from you. They're learning from you. And as a leader, you can offer people so much more when you have stories like that to tell. And so perhaps like the things that you're going through, it's because God is preparing you, because someone's going to join your team next month, or someone's going to join your team next year who needs to hear that. They need to hear that you were going through this and you kept going, and now here you are, a diamond leader, a double diamond leader, a presidential diamond leader, ambassador diamond leader, you name it. And they need to hear that. They need to see you where you're at that point, and hear like, hey, a year ago, this is what I was going through, and I kept going, and now I'm here. And so I think so often, when we're in the midst of that, we don't think about how that can be used later. We don't think about what that can do for someone later. But when you're resilient, the quitter in you cannot quit, plain and simple. The winner in you will never let the quitter in you quit. And so you're going to keep going no matter what you're going through. And so ask yourself right now, like, am I committed to being resilient? Because if you're committed to being resilient, then quitting will never be an option for you. Because that deep part of you that is destined to win, that is born to win, is not going to let the quitter quit. It's going to make you keep going. Another thing to consider, I was listening to Darius Daniels, and he was talking about this kind of when he was talking about the verse that I was just sharing with you guys. He was talking about how like the difference of being hungry or desperate is like when you're hungry, you want the next level. Like you want the next level so bad you can taste it and you're willing to fight for it. Whereas when you are desperate, you want a handout. When you're desperate, you just want your enroller replaced distributors under you. You just are really hoping someone's going to give you a customer. You're just really hoping things are going to fall in your lap easily. But when you are hungry for what's next, and you're hungry for that next level of success, you're going to fight for it. And you're going to fight for it with everything you've got because you want that. You are hungry for that. And I think that mindset is just so crucial. Like whenever we're going through something, like we have to ask ourselves, like, am I hungry? Do I want that next level? Am I resilient? Yes, I'm resilient. Yes, I want the next level. Okay, then this is a done deal. Like I know what I need to do. Another thing too I want to talk about, just like as far as like attracting success, is I firmly believe, sorry guys, I had something popping up on my phone and it's distracting me, I'm trying to minimize it, is when we're committed to attracting success, and we are committed to being the best version of ourselves. Like number one, like attracting success to you in a continuous manner comes from a place of confidence. It comes from a place of knowing that you have everything that it takes. And you guys have heard me talk, if you've ever been on Zooms with me or ever, been on my lives when we get on this subject, you guys know one of my favorite things to point out is that God doesn't play favorites. Like he doesn't have like a favorite child that he does things for, and he like made sure they had everything they need, but then you're not his favorite child, so he left things out with you. Like God doesn't have favorites. And logically, we all know that. And so when we can think of it like that, we're like, okay, yeah, I guess I do believe that. I know God doesn't have favorites. So that completely like ixnays that mentality of like, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to do this, or she's got something that I don't, or, I just don't, I fall short in this area, because we understand like God never created anyone with a deficit, including you. So if you believe he didn't create you with a deficit, then you know that even if on the surface right now, you're looking at things and you feel inadequate in some way or another, like, you can quickly debunk that, because it's not true, because he didn't create you with a deficit. He didn't create anyone with a deficit. And so deep down, you have everything inside of you. It's just a matter of like, are you willing to pull it out? Are you willing to bring it out? And whenever we're in a place where we're not attracting success, it usually comes from like, we're so deep rooted in our insecurity, we're not attracting anything good to us right now, because we're like in our own head, we're wallowing in this place. And so we're attracting more of that. We're attracting more of those emotions, more of those feelings. And when we can work on ourselves, and this goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, like understanding like we have the power to control us. We have the power to always be the best version of us. And so if we're always doing that, and we're making sure every single day we're a little bit better than the day before, then we're going to start attracting people to us because they sense that in us. One thing that I heard early on in the business is that people want to follow someone who knows where they're going. And what I quickly realized is that people are more inspired by someone lower in the business who is on fire for life and is so excited about their future and cannot wait to see where they go, than they are someone who's been at the top, sitting fat and sassy. It doesn't really care about success anymore, not really inspiring. Like people are less inspired by that person who maybe has made millions than they are by someone who maybe has only made a couple $100 but is so excited about where they're going, because people want to follow someone who knows where they're going. And so if you know God didn't create you with a deficit, and you know that deep down he did put everything inside of you that you need, then you got to debunk those lies from the enemy right now and start like every single day choosing to shine your light and letting people see that side of you that is confident. Because even if you don't feel confident right now, I promise you there's a side of you deep down and inside of you that knows what you're capable of. You just got to bring it to the surface. And the second you do, and the second you start posting from that person, you start, following up and sending your voice message from that person, then you start attracting people, you start signing people, you start, your seal the deal rate goes up so much higher. When you're doing your follow-ups, you're enrolling so much more because people sense that in you and they want what you have. And so often it's such a simple fix. It's a matter of like rejecting the lies and accepting the truth. And when we do that, like it sounds so simple, but when we do that, we start seeing things happen the way that they're meant to happen. When we believe in ourselves and we commit to being the best version of ourselves, and we choose to like mind over matter, take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ, we start seeing the supernatural happen in our entire lives, especially our business. We start seeing miracles happen. We start seeing things happen that we can't quite explain. People will look at you and be like, man, you just must be lucky, because they're seeing things happen for you, and they're seeing that you're a magnet for success because you believe that you're meant for success. You believe that you're born to win. You're preparing to win, and you're expecting to win. And it all ties in together to this one beautiful picture. And if there's nothing else that you take away from everything I'm rambling on about tonight, I hope you take away that if you believe in yourself, everything starts falling into place. If you decide that you're going to be the best version of yourself every single day, you're not going to beat yourself up when you fall short in one area. It's not the end of the world. I promise you, I fall short in a lot of things every single day. But one thing I try to do is just do, like, if there's something I'm like not feeling the greatest about for my performance one day, I just make sure I do it better tomorrow. Plain and simple. I'm not going to sit there and get waylaid about that one thing that I could have done a little bit better, or, this one aspect of my time I could have managed better. I'm just going to do better tomorrow, because it's really that simple. And I love what Sharon said. She says, I'm not lucky, I'm blessed. Exactly. And people will look at you and think you're lucky, and you're going to be able to tell them, no, I'm the product of someone that didn't quit. I'm the product of someone who, God's hand is on me, is on my life. I am blessed and highly favored. One of the things I write in my affirmations every single morning is, I'm blessed and highly favored. God loves to bless me. God's hand is on me. I'm protected. Because I want to make sure that whatever happens throughout the day, like, I'm meditating on those truths. Because the enemy will come at you. When you're doing things right, he will come at you. There will be things that are thrown at you, but it's a matter of, have you already decided that you're resilient? Have you already decided that you're going to keep going no matter what's thrown at you? Have you already decided that, he who lives within you is greater than anything that could possibly come against you? And so you're not worried about it. Whatever happens, happens. I have a lot of people that will ask me my opinion on, like, things happening, and, just like, maybe it's something in business, something, someone does something or whatever. And my answer a lot of times is the same. I'm like, I haven't really thought much about it. I mean, yeah, I heard about it, but I'm not really concerned about it, because I know that what someone is doing, it doesn't necessarily affect me. Like, I can keep going no matter what someone did or didn't do, and I can keep setting a good example. Whatever someone else, is or isn't doing, like, that doesn't matter. And I think, like, having that mindset, like, that's when we can work our business from a place of peace. And not from a place of, like, franticness, not from a place of, like, trying to control every aspect, but just understanding all I can really control at the end of the day is me. And if I'm being the best version of me, and I'm making sure every single day is a little bit better than the day before, I'm going to attract success. Like, I'm going to have success. I'm going to win, because that's who I am. I was born to win. Jack said in the comments, he prays the Prayer of Jabez. And the Prayer of Jabez, oh my gosh, you guys, if you're on here and you're newer and you've never heard of it, it's a really, really short, simple prayer. I've got my Prayer of Jabez book in my room, but it's a book that I read often. I highly recommend it. It's like $8 on Amazon. And that's for a new copy. It's probably even cheaper if you buy a used copy. But the Prayer of Jabez is just, oh Lord, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory and keep your hand on me, that I will be free from pain. And then it's at the end, it says one other thing, that you'll keep me from pain, or that I may not cause pain. Yeah, or that you'll keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. And then it says, and the Lord granted him his request. So, oh Lord, that you would bless me indeed, and enlarge my territory, and keep your hand on me, and keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. And it says that God blessed him, and granted him his request. And so that's a prayer that I pray whenever I'm praying over, just my business and my family and my life, is I pray that God will bless me, that he will enlarge my territory, that he will keep his hand on me, that he'll keep me from evil. Because when we pray those things, you guys, like, we can go through our day confidently and not have to worry about things. We don't have to worry about what's, seemingly not going right on the surface, because we know that God's in control. We know the battle has already been won, and we know that there's no deficit in us. We know that we, like, with his hand on us, there's nothing that we can't do. And so I encourage you to get that book, pray that prayer, and watch your business start expanding. I started praying that prayer around the time. So actually what's funny is my grandma used to pray this prayer. My grandma died in 2013, and I used to pray that prayer a lot. Whenever Zach started his business, I had prayed that prayer a lot. This is like before It Works. The pastor of our church at the time was very big on this prayer and always talked about it and always would pray it over us. And then somewhere along the line, I just kind of stopped praying the prayer. I don't have any explanation for why. There's no reason. There's no rhyme or reason. I just stopped praying the prayer. And then I heard of the book. Actually, Erin Tweed recommended it whenever it was the month I was going Presidential Diamond. So November of 2018, she recommended the book to me and said, "Do you have this book?" And I said, "No, I don't have it." She's like, "Oh my gosh, you've got to get it. It's going to change your business." So I ordered it that month. We went Presidential Diamond that month. It was one of the best months it was the best month I've ever had in my business as far as enrollments, actually. I enrolled 60 customers that month and 40 distributors. And then 5 months later, we went Ambassador Diamond as a team. We literally saw mountains move those 5 months as I was praying this prayer over us and praying this prayer over my family, our business as a whole, our team as a whole. We saw more promotions in 5 months than we had seen in like 3 years. We saw so many unexplainable things happen. And so I want to encourage you, if you don't have that book, if you've never heard of the prayer before tonight, order that book and start praying that prayer over your business. And that honestly ties into everything we're talking about, like expecting to win. Like expecting to win because you know God's hand is on you and has always been on you. But God, Deborah put in the comments, God cannot bless what you won't do, and work like it depends on you and pray like it depends on God. And whenever we're like operating from that mindset and we understand, like, okay, God's not going to bless what I won't do. So if I don't show up expecting to win and I don't put my best foot forward, then I'm not going to win the way someone who's showing up expecting to win, giving their all, is going to win, because they just laid it all out on the table for God to bless. And I'm really not. It's like the parable of the talents. Whenever we, the master gave his 3 servants the talents, and one of them just buried the talent in the ground and was afraid they would lose it, and the other 2 went and invested and got a return on their investment. And the master came back and said to the one that buried it in the ground, he said, "You wicked servant." And that is, I think, so often, like, that's us in our life. Like, we have all this potential and we're just keeping it inside of us because we're scared we're going to fail, or we're scared we're going to mess up, or we're scared someone's going to think something of us. And you gotta think, like, that parable, that metaphor, like that is a picture of us, like what we can do with our life. We can take that potential that God has given us and we can pull it out and we can do all these incredible things with it, or we can bury it inside of us. We can bury it in the ground. I read something somewhere, I think it was John Maxwell, and it said, God's gift to you is your potential. What you do with it is your gift back to him. Whenever I arrive at the end of my life one day, I want to be able to look Jesus in the face, and I want to be able to say, I used everything that you gave me. Like, there was nothing left on the table. I used everything that you gave me. I didn't let any of my talent go to waste. I didn't let any of my potential go to waste. And ask yourself right now, and I think I can answer for all of you. I know that deep down you want to say yes. Ask yourself right now, like, what do you want to be able to say to that? Like, do you want to be able to say, when you meet Jesus face to face, do you want to be able to say that same thing? And I think, if we're honest with ourselves, we all want to be able to say that. But it starts right now. Like, the race is on. Like, time stops for no one. And so right now, like, you've been given a gift of this business. You've been given a business that does not discriminate, a business that doesn't care if you have a college degree. Heck, a business that doesn't care if you have a high school degree. You have a business that you can work harder at than someone who's more skilled than you, and you can have more success than people who are more skilled than you. Savannah and I were on a walk yesterday. We were walking around the neighborhood, and since starting this business, we've moved to this beautiful neighborhood down in Southwest Florida, and it's night and day difference compared to where we lived before this business. When we started this business, my family of 6 at the time, I'm a family of 7 now. My family at 6 at the time was living in like a 1,200 square foot house. We were on top of each other. We were paycheck to paycheck, having to put gas and groceries on a credit card. Our cars got broken into several times. It was just, my kids were blessed to be zoned in a good school, but like, we weren't in like the best neighborhood. The neighborhood was going downhill fast. And after starting this business, we've been able to completely flip our life and live in this beautiful neighborhood with palm trees everywhere. And it's a gated neighborhood. I can let my kids run around. I don't have to worry about their safety and things like that. And I'm sharing that with you not to brag, but because that type of like mental security is priceless. That level of options in your life is priceless. When I was on a walk with Savannah, we were walking, she brought up just like some things that, you know, she's seen in our life transform the last several years. Savannah's been like my right-hand little helper the last 4 years. She's helped write thank you notes to customers. She's so involved in the business. She understands charting. Like, she's amazing. I love so much like how hungry she is to learn more about our business. But she said on our walk, she said, you know, it's really funny. She said, a lot of people talk about wanting to go to college and wanting to get degrees. She said, but I was watching something the other day that was talking about the average student loan debt that most college kids are in after college. She said, and then it was talking about the average annual salary they make after they graduate. She said, and it really doesn't make sense, Mommy. She said, they don't even make that much money after they get their degree, but they have all this debt to pay off. And I was sitting there listening, like honestly really impressed that she knew any of this. And I said, yeah, I mean, it's pretty true. Like there's a few professions that go to college and make a lot of money, but a lot of them don't. And she goes, well, why would anyone want to do that when there's such a better option? She said, you make more money than any of those people. And you didn't have to have debt to do what you're doing. She said, and anyone can do what you do. And I said, I know, Savannah. I said, that's why Mommy's so loud on social media about what we do, because I want people to know that. I said, but some people just don't know like what that opportunity can do for them. Some people who are even in the business don't know what they have their hands on. And she was like, well, we need to make sure they know. We need to make sure they understand. And it was just so funny to me, like listening to her talk about it. She's 11. For those of you who don't know Savannah or haven't ever seen her on my lives or anything, she's 11 and she's just so smart. Wise beyond her years. But it was just so funny hearing her talk about it so nonchalantly, because to her little 11-year-old self, like it was such a black and white option. Like, why would you go to college and get $100,000 of student loan debt? Like, that's so silly when you could just do this. And one thing that we've talked about as a family, and this is something, again, that we're really grateful that is an option that we can have because of the business. We got this idea from our pastor at our church in Texas, Gateway Church, Pastor Robert Morris. He shared something. It was actually after we started the business. We were probably like rubies when we heard this, and we immediately loved it. It was something we immediately put away in our mind. We're like, we're doing this. But he said, he told all of his kids, he said, I will pay for your school if you want to go to college, or I will buy you a starter home, like a small 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and I'll pay for that for you if you want to be an entrepreneur, so you can start your life either way without debt. And I was like, that is so smart. Like most parents are, even if they're willing to pay for school, they're not willing to do that. And that was something that we immediately were like, okay, we're going to do this. And It Works is going to give us the freedom to do that for our kids. And Savannah on our walk, she's like, I'm definitely choosing to start a home option and doing It Works with you. She was like, that's a no-brainer. And so I'm sharing that to say, I know that's kind of a little bit off topic about what we're talking about, but like, if my 11-year-old gets that mindset just from like witnessing the fruit of my labor, I hope that says something to you right now. If you've been in a place where you're like, I just don't know that I can do this. I don't know that I could be like that person I look up to. I don't know that I could have that same level of success. I hope that hearing that my 11-year-old gets it just sparks something inside of you to ask yourself, what if that could be true for me too? What if I could work really, really hard and I could have that life too? One thing I said to Deborah, and I'm going to call Deborah out because I know she doesn't mind, and I'm thinking of her because she's sharing so many incredible things in the chat right now. But when Deborah and I met and she expressed interest in the business, Deborah joined like the day after we met for the first time. It was totally like a meant to be thing. But she was like, I just like, what if I'm not good at it? And we talked about that. And I said, well, there's only 8 ranks in the company. So even if you went super slow and you only promoted once a year, then in 8 years, you'd be a millionaire making way more money than you are at your corporate job. And she just sat there and thought about it. And she's like, that's such a really great way to look at it. Like, I definitely won't be making that kind of money in 8 years at my job right now if I stay. Okay, what the heck? And Deborah's already 1 rank away from the top right now. And it's been like, what, 3 years, Deborah? 2 years? 3 years? Almost 3 years. 3 years in January, I think. And so like, I want to share that right now too, because whenever I shares this story, I think to myself, like, why don't I say this more often? Like, I remember saying that to her, but I like always forget to like share it from this point of view. So, thanks for always reminding me, Deborah, that I said that, because it is such a great simple way to put it. And I need to talk about it more, because I think that moment Deborah had in that setting when we were talking is the moment that all of us need to have right now. Like, if you're in any place in your head where you're like, I just don't know, or what if it takes me so long? Okay, well, what if it takes you long? What if you literally only promote once a year? Then in 8 years, you're going to be in a really, really good place. And I can promise you that if if you don't stop, you're going to keep going and you're going to keep making progress and you're going to be in a good place. We just shared, yesterday we did that Zoom on the team where we talked about, going Ruby faster and, having such a, fat, high Ruby paycheck in such a simple way. Like, there are so many things that if we just consistently move our feet and do every single day, and we pay attention to trainings, we work on ourselves, we just get a little bit better every single day. There's so many things that we can do to consistently be better, and you will have the results that you want. It's only a matter of do you believe it? Are you going to let yourself get there? Or are you going to take yourself out? Doubt, fear, insecurity, all of those things will take you out of the race long before any tangible thing will take you out. I've seen people that have everything it takes. Like, I see so much potential in them, and they'll get in their own head and they'll let literally just feelings of unworthiness, just basic levels of insecurity, take them out and keep them from a life that could have been just more than anything they ever dreamt of. I always like to share with people, when I got started, I had some moments of insecurity too. I'm human, I'm not immune to that. And I remember thinking like, okay, like, I believe if Claire can do it, I can do it. Claire's my enroller, for those of you who don't know. And I remember thinking, okay, if Claire can do it, I can do it. I do believe that. Like, logically, I know, like, I'm a hard worker, I'm willing to learn, but like, what if people don't like me as much as her? Like, she has this great following. People just seem to like latch onto what she says. And I had all these thoughts that came in my head, and I like had to quickly realize, like, those thoughts are coming from the enemy. Like, Pam always says, if something that you're telling yourself doesn't sound good, like, cast it out, because it's not your thoughts. Like, it's not coming from you. If it doesn't sound good, it's not coming from you. So you gotta like ixnay that out really quickly, because it's not you. It's not coming from God. It's not coming from you. Like, that's coming from a place of darkness. And so stop listening to it. But I always like to share, like, when I had those feelings and I chose to like, get them out of my head and keep going and just, believe the best was ahead of me. Like, getting to a place, like, honestly, even just 1 year into my business and turning around and like looking at the journey and looking at like those thoughts I had, I always like to share, like, can you imagine where I would be today if I would have given fear the victory back then? If I would have like chosen to like give those thoughts more power than they deserved, I might have missed out on all this. I would have missed out on all this. And like, what a sad, sad story. Like, I shudder to think like of what my life would be like today and like what I could have missed out on. And so ask yourself today, like, if you're struggling with those feelings of fear, like, number one, are you willing to shut them out? And if you don't shut them out, like, what could you possibly be missing out on? Like, what could your life potentially look like a year from now, 2 years from now, that you'll never get there and see because you're going to let fear take you out of the game right now? So step one, choose to be the best version of yourself. Choose to show up every day being a little bit better than you were yesterday. But step two, choose to, no matter what happens, be resilient. No matter what comes your way, you're going to keep going. No matter what comes your way, you're going to choose faith over fear. I was just listening to a book a couple of days ago, and I shared this in the Dash to Diamond chat, but he said in the book, he said, fear and faith cannot coexist in your mind. He says, everyone wants to talk about faith over fear, and they want to talk about like, feel the fear and do it anyways. He's like, faith and fear cannot exist at the same time. So you have to choose which one is going to rule, because one will always dominate over the other. But like, you can't have them both. It's not like you're scared and then you're like, oh, but I still have a lot of faith. Like, no, it's one or the other. So when you feel fear rise up, you have to dismiss it. You have to cast it out, and you have to let faith take its place, because they can't coexist. They can't live together. And so part of being resilient is choosing faith over fear in anything that happens. And then lastly, it's knowing that God put everything inside of you. Everything that you could possibly need to be successful is already inside of you. And if you're going to create success, and you're going to attract success, and you're going to sustain success, and you're going to continue to have success no matter what happens, you have to kill that thing that can kill your calling, because all of us carry something in us that can take us out. All of us carry something that can kill our calling. Maybe it's feelings of unworthiness. Maybe it's, a little bit of jealousy. Maybe it's doubt. Maybe it's being a worrywart. Maybe it's overthinking. Maybe it's caring too much about what people think. You know what it is. I don't know what yours is. I know what mine is. All of us know what ours is if you really think about it. But we have to kill that thing that can kill our calling. We have to like intentionally work on the part of ourselves that is vulnerable to that thing. One thing I'm such a big proponent of is listening to self-development books that you need. Not books that everyone else needs, because someone else may need something completely different than you. Not just listening to books that like tickle your ears and make you feel really good, but books that actually challenge you, books that convict you. When I turn on a sermon, I know it's a good one if I feel convicted. If I'm like sitting back in my seat and I'm like, okay, this was very timely, God, I hear you loud and clear. Like, that's when I know it's a good one. That's when I know I need to listen to that whole series because of the way I felt when I listened to it. And it's the same thing with books. It's the same thing with podcasts. Like, listen to something that's going to force you to grow in the area that's the most vulnerable to the thing that can kill your calling. Because if you kill that thing that can kill your calling, then you just made you being resilient a whole lot easier, because now like your mind is strong in the area it needs to be strong in. A lot of us have like all these things that are going well. We've got all this part of us that's going so well, but then we have this one part of us that's our weakness, like our Achilles heel. And so if we can strengthen ourselves in that area, like you just made your path to success so much easier, because now you're, and I don't want to like say you're untouchable, but in a way you're untouchable. Like in a way, like you just set the stage to where anything that's thrown your way, it's not a problem. Like you're going to keep going no matter what. And I think that kind of ties into that concept of like having that faith that's going to last, having that faith that's going to keep going when the going gets tough. And so anyways, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I feel like I just realized it's like a little bit over time, so I'm sorry, I could just keep going and going. But I want to go ahead and answer the questions that were asked in the chat before we wrap up, because I saw just a few questions. Okay, so let's see. One question was, I don't have the greatest of organizing skills. How do you keep your business together? You know, kind of one thing is like, number one, if you drop one ball one day, like not beating yourself up about it, but thinking like, how can I improve? How can I get better? And I do this not just with my business, but with my kids too. Like if my life is chaotic with my kids and they're like, maybe they're just being really messy and they're not doing their chores, or, you know, one of them's just really not listening or whatever. Like I sit at night and I think like, okay, how can we tackle this? Like there's a solution for everything. What is the solution for this? Like, what can I do to make this better? And honestly, I think like if you're a mom, I think like parenting, business, it all, like you got to get it all flowing in the right direction. If you're a college student and you're in school, you need your school rhythm in a good place. You need your business in a good place, because it's all a part of your life. And so I think so often when we feel like we're drowning, we could be doing really, really well with something, but we're not in another thing. And so getting everything in a good groove is key. And then just like, if you do drop a ball in one area one day, it's okay. Just fix it tomorrow. Like I had a few days where I felt like I was like barely seeing my kids. And it wasn't even so much because of like, I was working all day. I had a lot of stuff I was trying to do around the house, and I was really trying to clean out some stuff and organize some stuff, plus like work on myself and some things. And so I wanted to spend more intentional time with my kids rather than passive time. And so I was like, okay, what's something we can do? My older three are homeschooled. So aside from just like homeschooling them, like what is something else I can do that's like more special time? And so I went and found this like Bible storybook that I actually had for a while. I bought on Amazon probably like 5 years ago. And it's like brand new. It's like the Golden Book Bible storybook, and it goes through the whole Bible, Genesis through Revelation, but it's like written in like individual stories, and it's really, really enticing for kids. And so I was like, okay, this is perfect. What I'm going to start doing is when I get back from my walk every day, they're usually eating lunch. I'm going to sit down with them, and while they eat lunch, I'm going to sit with them, and then I'm going to read them. I'm going to read them like 1 or 2 stories, because the stories are like 2 pages. And so we started doing that probably a week ago, and they love it. It is like their favorite time. Lunch is so much more fun for them. Like they're not just bored sitting there eating. Like I'm sitting there with them and they're reading that story. I'm asking them questions. We're engaging. And then afterwards, like they're ready to go play outside. They're ready to go swim. And then I go to work. But like I feel good knowing I got that special time with them, and I'm able to like answer their questions and teach them something. And so I know that wasn't about business, but I'm telling you that to say I see a lot of people feel like they're struggling in business when they're actually struggling in something else. And if they fix with something else, like the business part is actually not that hard. But as far as like some tangible things of like how I make sure I'm organizing my business, is just making sure I'm staying on top of my core things I need to do to build my business. So I'm making sure that I'm putting my own oxygen mask on first. I'm writing my own posts before I'm answering messages. I'm making sure that I clear out my messenger, you know, as quickly as I can throughout the day. So whether that means knocking it out in the morning, or, you know, sometimes I might do half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening. I am making sure that I have like a rhythm there. And at different stages in the business, that'll look in different ways, but the biggest thing is just having a rhythm that works for you. So if you really need your morning routine protected, then it might mean you get more work done in the afternoon. If you really rather have a sacred evening routine, then you might be getting all your work done in the morning. But figuring out like what that looks like for you, and then making sure you've got your other parts of your life in a good place, that's going to help you not drop the ball with your business. Because I really do think, just from what I've personally witnessed with like a team this size, and just my own, you know, relationships I have in the business and my own personal journey, is when we drop the ball in our business, it's usually because of something else. It's not usually anything to do with business. And that's why when someone comes to me and says like, oh, I just don't have time, I can't do this, I know that's never not the reason. I know that they're feeling less than in an area, or they're feeling like they're failing in an area, or they're just feeling like they're drowning in their life in general. And if we can just fix whatever the problem is, the business will be no problem. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I hope that did. Okay, Bianca asks, what is a good way to help your new distributors see the value and what they have their hands on with this business? One of my new girls asked this. So I think, and you asked this, Bianca, to be fair, before we started, I think we covered a lot of that. What I would just say is ask them, like, number one, do they believe in the success they've seen in the business? Like, do you see the people who are doing insane things with this business? And obviously they're going to say yes. And then ask them, like, do you believe that could be possible for you? Because so often, like, people will admire someone else's success, but just like we've been talking about tonight, they don't think that could be true for them. And so I think having that conversation early on and getting them to, like, getting their wheels turning, hopefully watching the replay of this Zoom if they're not on live will help too. But getting their wheels turning on, like, what that could be for them will help them see the value. And I think different people see the value at different times. I think depending on how hungry you are for change when you first get started, like, you might be willing to see the value your first week. And if you just get started because, you know, maybe someone followed up with you 19 times and you're like, well, I am broke, I better get going, but you're not really in a place that you're ready for change, it might take you longer to see the value. Stephen Furtick always says that hate is a stronger motivator than love. Like, you can be in a place where things are not really that great, but you're still kind of comfortable being uncomfortable. And so, like, there hasn't been that rock bottom moment for you where you're like, I cannot live like this anymore. For me, the rock bottom moment was all my credit cards were maxed out. We were in $120,000 of debt, and gas and grocery were going on a credit card, and we were reliant on certain vendors to pay us on time for our business. And if vendors didn't pay on time, then we weren't able to pay our payments. And then it was like literally looking like at any moment, like the walls could come crashing down. And I had a moment where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was losing my hair in chunks in the shower. I was barely sleeping at night. I had a newborn baby. I was like, there is no way this is going to be my life. And I had like a moment where I'm like, this is not my life. Like, I refuse to accept this. And the way I was raised from a family that had a lot. My dad worked really hard and built a business from nothing. He was mowing yards when I was born and was broke. And by the time I left the house, he had a business that was doing 10 to 15 million a year. In the recession years, his business was doing like 9, 10 million. And in the good years, it was doing upwards of 15. So mowing yards to that. So I saw what was possible with hard work. And even though it was a totally different business than we're doing, I saw my dad go from nothing to a life where he paid for my school, to where I went to a private Christian education, you know, growing up. Like, I saw what was possible. And so I think I had this moment for myself where I was like, my life was struggling, and like we were having nothing. And my dad didn't, after I turned 18, my dad's like, you're on your own. Like, I work hard for what I have. You're going to work hard for what you have. Don't ever ask me for help. Like, that's how my dad is. And so I had this moment where I was like, okay, there's no way that I came from this and then I like don't know if I'm going to be able to buy groceries. Like, that's not, how does that happen? And that was my breaking point where I was like, this cannot go on. Like, I've got to figure my life out. And if this business is being put in front of me on social media every single day for a reason, then like, I got to take it. It's my responsibility to do something. And that was the night I reached out to Claire, never looked back. I had a slow start, but when I got going, I got going. And I know, like, with every fiber of my being, like, God put this business in my family's life to be a solution for my family. He put this business in my life to be everything that I needed it to be, to give me that life that I wanted. But I had to be willing to work hard at it. I had to be willing to go through those, you know, moments of, you know, like feeling like no one was liking my posts and feeling like nothing was going right, but like having that faith and that trust. And so some people join and they're not there yet. Maybe they're just really not. Like, maybe they have someone helping them. You know, I've helped people before who they are really broke, but they live with their mom and their mom's paying all their bills. And so they're really broke, but they've got someone helping them. And so I think, like, you know, we're all in different seasons and sometimes things have to happen a certain way before we're really ready to wake up. But if you're watching the replay or you're on here live and you're in a position where you don't hate things bad enough yet, you know your life's not great. You know there's nothing to brag about, but you just don't hate it bad enough yet. And maybe you have someone that kind of has your back. There is someone that's making sure you can eat. And so you haven't found yourself with that pressure, like the walls caving in. I just want to ask you right now, like, what if that help went away? What if all of a sudden, like, something happened and your mom couldn't help you anymore? Or what if all of a sudden, you know, your husband lost his job and now you guys went from just kind of broke to like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like, what would you do? How would you feel? Wouldn't you be glad that you were proactive and you went ahead and started now, even when you felt like you had some help there? Wouldn't you be glad you went ahead and started and you waited till like the crap hit the fan. And so that's, you know, again, like we all have to make those decisions for ourselves. But if you're on here and that's kind of the place you're in, that's what I would encourage you to think. Because I know for me, I watched Claire for 11 months. And I literally thought about this all the time after I joined her. I'm like, I should have just joined her when I first saw her. Like, I had thoughts inside of me that wanted to join her when I first saw her. Like, something told me this business was special, but it just took me 11 months of watching to actually reach out. But like, what if I would have joined when she joined? You know, like, heck, I would probably already be double ambassador. Like, I can't imagine. And don't get me wrong, I'm so grateful and I believe God's timing is everything. But like, why waste time? Why waste time? You have this business in your hands right now. You have it as a vehicle and a means to provide for your family, or if you're single, to provide for you and set you up for like when you do have a family, you have everything your family could need. Like, why wait? Why waste time? Why wait for things to get so bad? Why not just start now? I heard, and this is kind of the last thing I'll say. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit. I think there's one more question, but one thing I'll say too is I had someone ask me the other day, they said, what would you say to someone? They said, I have someone on my team who says they're going to have to quit the business because they're so broke, they just need to go get a job right now. And I want to say this real quick, and it's funny because I didn't think about saying this at all, but I just feel led to say this. And I don't know if that person's on here or someone else is on here who's maybe having these thoughts or why God's prompting me to share this. But what I shared with her was I said, you know, number one, helping kind of like Bianca's question, like helping them see like the value of what they have their hands on. Like, you don't need a job. Like, why would you go get a job making $9 an hour when you could work really, really hard? We just did a training on how you signing your 6 customers and then 18 more customers would put you Ruby and making over $1,000 a month. Like, that's so simple. Like, that's a total of 24 customers. Like, why would you want to go get a job working, you know, however many hours a day, however many hours a week, making $9-10 an hour when you could do that from home with your family, off your phone? Like, it doesn't make any, like, so often I think we need someone to tell us, like, hey, that doesn't make sense. And so if you're on here and you're someone's upline and you know they're in that position, like, deliver the truth in love. Like, tell them, hey, that doesn't make sense. Like, this business can be everything you need. You joined this business for a reason. Like, come on, snap out of it. Let me help you. If you do what I teach you to do, I can show you how to provide for your family with this business. I can show you how this business can provide for you more than any, you know, 9-to-5 job ever could. But if you're on here and you're in that boat, I just want you to know, no one can make you receive something that you're not willing to receive. And so if you want a blessing and you want to get to the next level, you got to decide right now, like, I'm hungry. Yes, I want that. I'm going to get that. But if you're just trying to just barely scrape by and you're doing what you've always done, I actually just put something in my story today. I don't know if you guys saw it, and I'm going to like pull it up real quick, but I basically said, pay attention to your patterns. The way you learn to survive may not be the ways you want to continue to live. Heal and shift. And so maybe the way your pattern and the way that you learn to survive has been always scraping by, just getting enough to get by. Like, oh, the crap hit the fan again. Let me go get a second job and just get a few extra $100 coming in. I'll be able to pay this one medical bill off, and then I'll be back to normal. I'll be good. I'll be good, just normal paycheck to paycheck life. But like, is that what you want? Do you want to live that way, or do you want to thrive? Do you want to like actually live your life? Because if you want to live your life, then the way that you learn to survive, it's not going to cut it. Like, you gotta heal yourself and heal that part of you, heal that part of your mindset that's kind of a little bit dysfunctional, and you got to shift and make the changes for you. Do it for you, because you weren't put on this earth to just scrape by. You weren't put on this earth to live paycheck to paycheck and to barely make it. You were put on this earth to be something great, but you got to pull that greatness out from inside of you. And it's something only you can do. No one can do that for you. Okay, let me just check the chat real quick, and then we're going to wrap up because I know we went a little bit over. But I just so love everyone that's contributing in the chat. You guys have great things to contribute, and I'm loving just so much like the things that this is stirring up in you. Kayla said, dig the well before you're thirsty. That's so good. Everyone said you weren't created to simply survive. Ashley said, don't settle for less. Okay. Yes, Jack, don't give up, don't quit. Decide right now that if it's to be, it's up to you, and you're going to keep going regardless of what your upline did or didn't do, and make it happen. Okay. I think we got all the questions answered. I don't think anything else. Two more things I want to read from the chat is Deborah shared, people need your story. I have almost 900 people in my downline that I would have never had this opportunity if Brittany hadn't shared her story with me at a church small group. You know what's funny, Deborah, about small group is I was just talking to Jessica Ringel about you today, and we were talking about how we only lived in Alabama for 1 year, and how like a lot of people are like, why didn't you guys just move straight to Florida? And I'm like, I know it was meant to be that we moved to Alabama, because if we didn't have our 1 year pit stop in Alabama, like Deborah and I would have never met at church small group. Deborah would have never, like, I wouldn't have ever signed Deborah. Deborah wouldn't have ever signed Chelsea. Deborah would have ever signed, all her other leaders. Chelsea would have never signed Chelsea Crawford, who now is someone everyone on the team has come to know and love. Like, think of the ripple effect. Like, Deborah's choice to be brave has led to this ripple effect that's so incredible. Us, like, just following God's prompting and moving to Alabama, even though everyone's like, why would you want to go to Alabama? And that's not anything bad about Alabama. My family's just like, what's in Alabama? Like, that's such a random place. But like, we knew we were supposed to go, and that led us to Deborah. And Deborah has now like been led to so many other people, and it's like they've been led to people. And like, that's something you can't see when you first get started. Like, I promise you, Deborah didn't see herself. Maybe you did, Deborah, I'm speaking for you, but I think I'm right on this. Like, I don't think when we talked that first night, she saw herself having a downline of 900 people. She didn't see herself, having this ripple effect. I didn't see that happening when I moved to Alabama, meeting Deborah, and the ripple effect happening. But like, everything happens the way it's supposed to if we will just work on ourselves, be the best version of ourselves, and just like put one foot in front of the other every single day, committed to like following where the path leads. But you can't live your life in fear. You can't live your life in what ifs. You can't operate in that place. You got to just take that step of faith. You got to be like Deborah when she had that moment where she's like, okay, like, you're right. What do I have to lose? I promote once a year, 8 years, I'm going to be set. Like, all right, let's do the thing. Like, you got to have that mindset where you're like, let me just go for it. Let me go all in and be the best version of myself. All right, Melanie said, that's why I keep going. I wouldn't have the friends God brought me through this business. And I know without a doubt, I just can't place it yet that I'm here in this business for more than God. This message for me is convicting. I love it, Melanie. It's so crazy. Like, I think of like Melanie and I's relationship, and several of you other guys who met on Instagram. Like, Melanie and I met on Instagram. She was my customer, and then she decided to join the business. Like, nothing in this business is a coincidence. If we do what we're supposed to do, like, we meet the people God has for our life. We will always have our needs met. He'll put the right people in at the right time. He'll put exactly who you need in that season. He's going to give you the friends you need. He's going to give you the resources you need. You're going to have relationships that are literally priceless, just from like that act of obedience, just from persevering, just from being resilient. So I love you guys so much. I'm so glad we got to spend this time together. I know it went a little bit late, but I enjoyed being on here with you guys. I hope that you guys had a happy Labor Day. I hope you guys, as you celebrated today, just really thought about like how blessed we are to be able to labor in the way that we do. Like, we don't just have to do a job that feels pointless. Like, we can work hard knowing that God is going to lead us to people that need what we have. We can work hard knowing that in the midst of providing for our family, we're able to be a blessing for other people as well too. We're able to do things that ordinary people don't get to do. And so I love you guys so much. I hope you guys had a great day. I will see you guys later. If you're new with us, we have a team huddle every single Monday night at 9:30 Eastern time. So make sure you put that recurring on your calendar. And I'm excited to see the stuff that we've got for the rest of the month. But I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.